Hello and welcome to North 100, a Canadian Highlander podcast. My name is Serge. Joining me, I got a Nelly.
They brought me back.
I got a Wheeler.
Throwdown.
That threw me off. And on tech, we got a Paul.
Hello.
A reminder that everything we do is brought to you by you, the support of the Patreon, over at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. Welcome to part 2 of our Modern Horizons 3 set review. Part 2 set, covered everything.
Yes.
This is going to be a big one. This is the longest set review we have ever done, and this is probably going to be the longest episode and the longest episode block to cover stuff. We're covering black and red cards today, and we got a bunch of them because this set is pretty pushed. Reminder that we do not cover every single card. Our set reviews are not exhaustive. Instead, we are covering the cards that we think are going to make an impact or we think that you're going to ask about. We want to get ahead of the comments. We are also including the Commander product, much like our very first card that Wheeler is going to start us off with.
I kind of just wanted to comment. I really wish we had like a chaise lounge.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, you want to be couching this podcast?
Do you need to be sexier when we're talking about Highlander here?
Sexier? No.
No. It's like you're relaxing for your therapist appointment or whatever.
Like,
right?
if I'm about to-
Chad is the psychologist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I need to really just like slide here. Okay, now I'm ready to talk about a Goyf.
All right, Paul.
Hit me. Barrow Goyf. 2 and a black for a star +1 star Tarmogoyf. It's got Tarmogoyf stats. It's a Death Touch life linker. It happens to be a Lurgoyf. Barrogoyf's power is equal to the number of cards. Barrogoyf's power is equal to the number of card types among cards in all graveyards, and its toughness is equal to that number +1. Whenever Barrogoyf deals combat damage to a player, you may mill that many cards. If you do, you may put a creature card from among them into your hand. This is from the Commander product. So, gentlemen, what if we could build a bigger Tarmogoyf? What if we could build a Tarmogoyf designed specifically so it's not just 2 Goyfs bashing heads?
Yep.
You're paying extra mana.
Yeah, there's no Goyf bounce.
But good news, it's in a better color than green. And it's got Death Touch and Lifelink. Like, when I say better color, I mean Tarmogoyfs are like, the joke of being it's the best blue creature of all time.
Sure.
Or like it's the best black creature. Because Goyf is at its best when it's paired with cheap, disruptive cards.
Yep.
Hand Attack being the biggest one. And so being in the colors of Hand Attack is great. It's great news for Goyf. This thing gets so big so quickly, has it's a 4/5 lifelink Death Toucher that's going to fuel your Delve cards or itself and draw you a card. Huh? Nice format. Oh my god. This card is nuts.
Can't wait to.
Oh,
Ancient Tomb mana. Or Mock Straw.
Just a full circle, yeah.
Yeah. This card's cracked.
That's canon now, by the way. This is now Mock Straw.
You're doing the outline of an...
If you come down here to your sides, it's Ancient Tomb.
Well, Ancient Tomb is just...
you gotta halt.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. This card rules.
All right, next up, Nelson.
Let's talk about Boggart Trawler. A little bit less powerful, but it's 2 generic and a black for a 3/1 goblin that says when this enters the battlefield, exile target player's graveyard. That's still pretty useful. But wait, haven't I heard that kind of a name before on a land that exiles a graveyard? Well, you don't get to exile the graveyard to play land, but the backside of this transform card is a land. It's a land. It taps for a black. It's called Boggart Bog. Or you can pay 3 life to make it untapped. Sorry. It comes and play tapped unless you pay 3 life. Why don't you do a clean take of that? Just kidding.
You used so many extra words.
Yeah. Hey, listen, not my best podcasting. What can I say? These transform dual-faced land/playable creatures really get me in the brain.
So, question for the two of you, because I don't feel like I can evaluate this. How relevant is the fact that it's a goblin?
Very.
Really? Even at 3 mana?
It's medium relevant, yeah.
2 reasons. 1, you have Goblin Matron and Boggart Harbinger. So you can tutor for a land, which is pretty important. Number 2, I think Goblins is secretly top like top 3 decks in the format.
Sure.
When Goblins is goblinsing, whew, you are
Watch
dying.
out. Yeah.
It is like unbeatable.
But you think this adds to that?
However, what stops it is its absolute worst matchup, Reanimator. Goblins does not have access to graveyard hate, and also really hates the fact that Archon of Cruelty and Atraxa and Sarah's Emissary all exist. And this isn't going to fix that, but it does help that you have a goblin that is now like just going to Bajuka Bog your opponent that you can tutor for, but then also just if you need to tutor for the land to set up and kill them the old-fashioned way, you can do that.
Interesting. All right.
I just like the name Boggart Bog.
It's really, very good.
Yeah. So clever.
All right. Next up, Breathe Your Last is a 3-mana instant for 1 black. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. You gain 1 life for each of its colors.
We're not really a murder format, but
No.
you know,
It kills a planeswalker.
yeah, having
It does.
You know, having another strictly better murder. I guess this is now a strictly better Heroes demise or whatever, right?
Heroes Downfall.
Heroes Downfall.
Hero's Downfall's better. It's better than Vraska's Contempt,
Sure.
which was 4 mana.
That one does exile,
It
doesn't it?
exiles a creature or planeswalker, and you gain 2 life. It gives you flexibility.
Yeah, it's still better, I guess.
This is not sexy. This is just more flexibility. This is another pretty flexible removal spell that unfortunately costs 3, but it's an instant.
I feel like I'm losing my mind.
What?
What?
Like, you don't think this card's like pretty good?
Yeah, it's solid.
Hero's Downfall is just like a totally reasonable. I mean, you're probably not playing it that often, but it's a total. You know what? If Hero's Downfall didn't get downshifted to an uncommon, I bet more people would play it. Like, yeah, just Hero's Downfall that can gain you like 2 life.
So, question. The adventure one, does it also kill
Yeah.
planeswalkers?
Oh, Murderous Rider.
Murderous Rider?
It does, but you lose 2
You
life.
lose 2 life to do
Right.
it.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing. Like, I don't even think all the black decks are playing Murderous Rider.
Yeah, the
right now.
removal suite has usually been like Murderous Rider and then the recent 2-mana ones that can kill anything. So those have really been hedging out the 3-mana removal spells.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
I just don't. I just can't think of the last time I sleeved one of these.
And this
up,
one's
you
super
know?
flexible and gains you life.
I'm
but-
just saying.
Yeah.
If you're going to play like mono black and you want one more thing to actually to reliably
Sure.
target and deal, like I think Heroes Downfall stocks are up. Like in
Really?
this, what are you going to die to Minskenboo or Comet?
Just kill them first, I guess. I don't know.
That's not how that works.
That's not
with
how
those
that works.
cards.
No, you're right. That's not how
Yeah.
that works. I just
Oh,
feel
yeah.
like so much of Black's top tier removal now is 1 mana or free.
It is, but it only hits smaller things, right? Like you can't Fatal Push a Murktide Regent. You can't.
You definitely
if you
can't.
If your deck is all long last goodbyes or long
Yeah.
goodbyes or whatever, and Fatal Push and Abrupt Decays, like you're just gonna die to a Questing Beast.
Yeah.
Or you're gonna
And-
die
and
to
you often
Murktide.
do. I mean,
Yes, you
yeah,
often
you do. That's
Right.
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
I don't know. No,
This will probably see some play.
yeah.
You're probably right.
You are right.
Yeah.
It is very good. Let's move on.
Chthonian Nightmare. 1 and a black for an enchantment that when it ETBs, you get 3 energy. Pay X energy, sacrifice a creature, return Chthonian Nightmare to its owner's hand, return target creature card with mana value X from your graveyard to the battlefield, activate only as a sorcery. Any recurring Nightmare fans in the room?
I enjoy Recurring Nightmare, actually.
All right. Well, Recurring Nightmare, when people think of reanimation spells, they think of bringing back big things. You don't actually have to get that big, especially when you're repeatedly doing it. And just looping like Wall of Blossoms, Baleful Strix, like Rex Sage type cards, like cheap utility creatures
Eternal Witness
with
for a spell.
Eternal Witness, like that is good. That's like the primary thing you do with Recurring Nightmare until you start bringing back like
Sun Titan. That's my favorite card.
that's
to look
Serge.
for that.
Serge
I know.
loves Sun Titan for
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
But like you can bring back like you set it up until you start bringing back like I don't know Solitude
Yeah.
or Custodial
Yeah.
Lich, like that
Yeah.
kind of thing. Now there aren't a lot of other energy cards, but this you don't need them. You really don't.
This can be energy positive.
And it will be
Yeah.
because it starts. Think about it. Like all the cards I listed, a lot of them are 2-drops.
Yep.
So you get the 2-mana utility creature back, and you get to float that 1 energy. And you play it again, you get up to 4. All of a sudden, that Wall of Blossoms is now turning into a Palace Jailer, or turning into another Baleful Strix, or whatever. And then you just keep racking that up. And the fact that it's 2 mana means that you can start doing it multiple times in a turn very quickly.
Yeah.
Recurring Nightmare 3 is not a huge amount, but if you're double Recurring Nightmare, that's 6 mana. Like that's some considerable mana.
You just play them both.
Yeah, you just play them both. This card, I think this card might be. I don't want to say it's better than Recurring Nightmare because it does different things.
Sure.
But it is a lot easier to justify spending your turn using this card.
So in the other episode, you were talking about how much you enjoyed Tameo as being one of your favorite and possibly the most push card in the set. That's this to me.
Yeah, this card's
Like,
cracked.
this seems wild. And I love Abzan Recurring Nightmare, Abzan Graveyard Recursion decks. It's like that's probably one of my babies. I like this outside of that shell in something like Food Fight as well, because that deck is almost all 2 mana creatures with ETBs, and going through that is I don't think I put Recurring Nightmare in that deck, but I put this in that deck.
I had a similar thought on my way over here where I was like, how close are we to playing Recurring Nightmare in like Seeker Walk? Right? And then I'm like, but it's so expensive. And then kind of went, what if it was 2 mana and just could get like every
Yeah.
creature you want to return anyways?
If you're looping 2 mana creatures, the energy cost is completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
Because you're always ahead. You're always net on that.
I want to second everything you said, but I also hadn't thought about this card yet as a way of gaining energy for like additional profit. And we've seen a few energy cards that are exciting, mostly just because they can make enough energy on their own. But I don't know, maybe if you just like have all this spare energy so that your new better Soul Warden is making angels every turn, that's cool too.
that
You know,
that is a
kind of
case
thing.
of these 2 energy cards that could theoretically be in the same deck, like a black-white Ruin Your Evening or a black-white just really annoying kind of deck just coming together and being able to just kind of shake hands and meet in the middle.
Obviously, there are some older energy payoffs you could include in if you're playing this in your deck, but I don't know that necessarily you'll make that choice, but it's just an interesting thing that might happen.
All
Okay.
right, let's move on. Nelly.
I want to talk about Consuming Corruption. It's black, 2 mana for an instant that says this deals X damage to target creature or planeswalker, and you gain X life, where X is the number of swamps you control. That's right, they made Tendrils of Corruption cost half as much mana and target planeswalkers. Woo! Salt of the Earth, black mages rejoice.
When we were looking at the previews like a couple months ago or whatever, I remember you like sipping a coffee, and I got to
I
this,
covered
and
my head.
you went like, whoa, and then kind of went, dude, started laughing, and you said like, I play this when it's 4 mana and can't hit planeswalkers.
Yeah. Now,
Really like this effect.
was Corruption an instant?
Yeah, it's still an
For whatever
instant.
reason in my head, I thought Tendrils Corruption was a sorcery.
No,
but
Corrupt is a
okay.
sorcery.
Right.
The
that's-
first one is actually
yeah.
6 mana and only goes players.
Well, and creatures you can corrupt.
Oh, you can corrupt
Could
creature
you?
player?
Oh,
Okay.
why
So, yeah,
would you?
so it
Oh,
was
sorry, I don't know if I ever
So
have.
it was corrupt, right?
Corrupt, yeah.
Corrupt, and then Tendrils of Corruption, and now we have Consuming Corruption.
That's right, yeah.
Man, this power creep is out of control.
Can't wait for
Over
the-
20 years.
I can't wait for the 1 mana one that also goes to the dome.
Yeah, exactly. The 1 mana one mills them and kills
Oh,
their stuff
man.
and makes them sacrifice lands. Yeah. No, fantastic card. As a removal spell, obviously tied to the number of lands you have in play. So, like,
Why would you ever play Breathe Your Last Wheeler?
well, I mean, let's be fair here. I'm very excited about this card. It's limited in its power, right? Like
Yeah.
it doesn't work
No.
in the first 3 turns of the game, or it barely works, right? It's 2 mana.
Yeah.
You can kill their birds, like you can kill their Ragavan, sure, it's fine, but you pay 2 mana for it. It excels in situations where you're getting a lot of swamps on the board. You're playing like a big black deck, and then you can kill whatever you want, and you're up life. Maybe you're recurring it somehow so that you're like, getting value that way and
Yeah.
keeping your life really padded. So if you're playing any sort of like large black deck,
Yeah,
I'm probably going to play it.
this
That's the
brings
only
me-
place, though. Yeah.
This brings me back to the old mono black challenge that
Sure.
we had. This is a YJ old legend story, but there was a deck that was really succeeding that just plays all the Sign in Bloods just to give you card advantage, and then something like this just to sustain you, or like old Necropotence and stuff like that, right? Like, sure, as it's a flexible removal spell, but also it's an enabler to start doing a lot of what bad black decks want to do, you know?
Yeah.
All right, we can move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know who you are if you're excited about this card to play that.
Somebody
Yeah.
was like, "Oh,
This card's mega niche, but it's gonna get in some decks.
yeah."
Exactly.
All right, next up we have the Emperor of Bones. This is a 2-mana 2/2 skeleton noble for 1 and a black. At the beginning of combat on your turn, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard. You can adapt for 1 and a black. Adapt 2. Now, adapt says if this creature doesn't have +1/+1 counters on it, you can pay its adapt cost to put the number of counters on it equal to its adapt cost. So for 2 mana, it becomes a 4/4. And then, whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put on the Emperor of Bones, put a creature card exiled with Emperor of Bones onto the battlefield under your control with a fatality counter on it. It gains haste and sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step.
Finality counter.
What did I say?
Fatality.
Pardon me.
That's what your opponent gets when you play this.
Yeah.
Yeah. This card is phenomenal. So just as a 2-mana 2/2 that just has some graveyard hate to it, incredible. Because it's at the beginning of combat of your turn. You don't even have to attack with it in order to interact with your opponent's graveyard. And we've talked about the power of Murktide Regents, of just blue X, Delve decks, and how much they utilize their graveyard already, Reanimator stuff. That's great. Then on turn 3, this can attack as a 4/4. And if you've led with like turn 1 hand attack to put a creature into their graveyard or something like that, like this has huge upside and huge tempo to be an aggressive black creature. And the ability to exile their graveyard and potentially even put +1/+1 counters on it for other reasons later on to get more value is wild. This is a all-star black aggressive creature that is going to kill people.
Luminarch Aspirant, put a counter on this. Reanimate that thing I just exiled from your graveyard.
Yeah, no, it's we I don't even know if we need to talk about the magical Christmas land scenarios with Emperor of Bones. The trigger on the bottom doesn't say once per turn. So if you have anything that can put plus counters on things like a Bristly Bill, we were
you
talking
can
about the last
exile
episode,
your own graveyard too.
Oh, yeah.
It's a graveyard, so you
Yeah.
can bring back your own threats just to fling them at your opponent. This is very.
I don't
strong.
even think that's magical Christmas land.
Sure.
That's just
Yeah.
2 cards.
Yeah.
You're probably
well, it just seems like so much value for only
Yeah.
2 mana though, right?
Yeah.
So it feels magical Christmas land. But yeah, it's like it's fine, totally on its own. Great card, and then also you can add Reanimator shenanigans to it to really go nuts. Yeah, can't wait.
All right, Wheeler, you're up.
Fell the Profane. 2 and 2 black for an instant that says destroy target creature or planeswalker. But wait, because guess what? It's also a land.
See, this is why we can't play murder.
See, I wouldn't play murder. I wouldn't play Breathe Your Last. I would play this.
Play both, you clod. The backside is Fellmire. ETB's tapped unless you pay 3 life taps for a black. Yeah. You're gonna there's a card that's similar to this called Hagra Mauling.
Yep.
Right.
That is from Zendikar Rising. Only says destroy a creature for 4 mana, but it can cost 1 less if your opponent has 0 basic lands.
Right.
And that's a card where it's always like, oh, I wish it just was a little better. And then they heard me say that. Like, I got you.
They
dude.
heard you.
Also,
I got you,
this is a
King.
rare.
Yeah.
Fell the Profane is a common?
Uncommon.
Oh, it's an uncommon?
Yeah.
Still. You're just
Yeah.
like, man.
Yeah. This card's really good. I think this is one of the ones where you can play it in an aggressive deck and also just like a mid-ranger control
Yes,
deck
100%.
because it pitches to grief. You could just hard cast this for 4 to kill their Murktide and you're okay with that because you just had it laying around, or if you need a land, you got a land.
Or their Comet. Yep.
Yep. Pretty good.
All right, you're up, Nelly.
I want to talk about.
Sorry.
What's up? Sorry, you good?
Oh my god. You can mystical tutor for a land now.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
true.
like the combo decks that already have the setup and just need mana, you could just mystical tutor for a land.
Exciting stuff, right? And it comes into play tapped. Costs 3 life.
Oh my god.
All right.
Sorry, yeah, keep going.
Well, Wheeler has an epiphany. I want to talk about Flare of Malice. It's time for the Black Flare. It's 2 and black for an instant that says, of course, you may sacrifice a non-token black creature rather than pay the cost, and each opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker with the greatest mana value among creatures and planeswalkers they control. So to me, this one sits in a kind of similar place as the blue one. It's a pretty straightforward removal spell. Greatest mana value, I'm not as much a fan of for our format for this kind of effect as greatest power just because Dark Depths is still very prevalent. And then the next biggest token I'm usually scared about is Boo, but like at least it will kill their
Construct, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
I'll sack
I
my
mean-
elf and kill you with this Construct.
Yeah, but it might kill their Minsks, so that's nice. Obviously great against the Reanimator targets. I'm overall kind of mid on this one. Like I don't think it's super busto. Like it's obviously a solid role player. If you can afford to pay the top right hand corner, probably consider playing it.
I'm lower on it than the blue one
Sure.
for sure. But I think it'll just see more play.
Oh, really?
You know, like maybe I don't know. It does what it says on the box.
Yeah.
In a color that does not care about doing this, and
It's
in fact
black is-
sometimes
yeah.
wants to do it.
Yeah, black is just so happy to sack its creatures and
Yeah.
compared to a lot of other colors.
That's fair.
I
Yeah.
just like stepped all over you there, Wheeler.
No, it's like I mean, the red one's crap, but we'll get to that later. But like, yeah, you're just sometimes your opponent plays a big donkey, and you're like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
well, bloodgast.
This
Sure.
this might be my favorite of them.
Oh, really? Just because you get the kind of
Well,
aristocrat's value? Yeah.
That's just the thing. You're just like, hey, I want to put my black creatures in my graveyard. Oh no.
Yeah.
Right. It is a sack outlet that doesn't need a target.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's cool.
Also, for this one and the blue one, they both kind of fit this role of like, ask yourselves, how much mana are you willing to pay to counter a spell that's going to win the game, or kill a creature or planeswalker that is going to win them the game? And the answer is however much you need to spend,
Yeah, or else I lose.
that
Yeah.
you're going to lose, or like you'll be in such a bad position.
Literally everything.
So,
That's
like,
why Pact of Negation, right?
Yeah, so hard casting this for 4, not ideal, but like if you have to do it and keep your creatures like up for attacks or whatever, then like that's fine. It
Could you
does.
see it in like a mid range, like some sort of like, I don't know, Abzant values?
Yeah, I
deck?
could see it in like a 2-color deck maybe.
Okay.
Like
yeah. What
a
about black red, like Fable deck or something?
Oh, I could.
maybe?
Yeah, I almost swore 3 times in a row.
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
I would play this with Blood Tithe Harvester. Like, there we
Sure.
go. Yeah.
I'd expletive deleted
Yeah.
around for this card. I think it.
I'd blank around. I'd play this with some blank and
Sure. All right. So probably see some play. Cool.
All right, next up is me with the Grim Servant. This is a 4-mana 3/2 zombie warlock for 3 and a black. It has menace. And when it enters the battlefield, search your library for a card with mana value less than or equal to your devotion to black. Reveal it, put it into your hand, shuffle your deck, and lose 3 life.
Little butt.
The
it's just
combo
the butt
player,
wiggle episode.
the combo players are excited. The zombie aggressive black players are excited. This slices, this dices. This is very, very, very flexible and unpointed and somewhat tutorable. It's repeatable. That's the big part. If you're playing any type of, I just want to think back to, you know what we used to have to do to get an effect like this? We used to have to play an 8-mana demon. What?
Wait, I'm still playing those.
Runescar
demon to loop and stuff like that. Yeah.
Technically 7 mana.
Oh, pardon me. Pardon me.
The new one's 8, but has Convoke. But yeah, it doesn't say you have to find a black card. Like, it's just actually the text from Grim Tutor.
Yeah, it's just
right?
Grim Tutor.
Except with the
Yeah.
devotion clause.
Yeah.
But you can go find Ephemerate even if you don't have any other black permanents.
The fact that you lose 3 life is kind of not
Sure.
great, but
Yeah.
it's also 4 mana, so it's a lot lower. You're much happier to hard cast this, and hopefully the card you're getting sort of negates that life thing.
Greatness at any cost, Serge.
Yep.
Greatness at any cost.
Yeah. It's in a hand too. That's cool. That's very cool. Sorry. I just like
It's
this
a
card.
cool card.
It's a cool card.
I think it's kind of on a not about the like Canlander influence. I think this is like kind of a perfect way to do a throwback.
Yeah.
Because like if you don't know Grim Tutor, this card is just
Yes.
like cool and it makes sense for what it's
Yep.
doing. If you do know Grim Tutor, you're like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
This is the equivalent to when they started doing the Magus creatures.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you're
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
hey, I get that
Oh.
reference.
Yeah, exactly.
And like, yeah, to be clear, I think this card is cool and fun. I don't think it's broken.
No.
Because
No, it's
recurring
very
it will
fair.
kill you. Yeah.
and it's 4 mana.
I don't,
And it's
yeah,
also equal to your devotion too.
Yeah,
Like, you're very
exactly.
restricted in what you can tutor for.
I don't know if it's terrible, but it is 4 mana. It only has 2 toughness, so like trying to get somewhere with it's tricky.
Menace is pretty big.
Menace
Menace is cool. The main problem I see with it in terms of like trying to find homes, I don't know if it goes into Garbage Platter.
No.
because it doesn't actually like fit the vibe of like your deck is a bunch of tutors. It's maybe more better in just like zombies.
Yeah.
I think it's
Maybe it'll
zombies
get
or
zombies.
like a recurring nightmare deck sort of thing.
Sure,
That
yeah.
you don't want to loop it over and over because you'll die, but you're happy to loop this a couple of times, like just add it to your toolbox kit to give you some flexibility.
Yeah, and that deck might have a way to be like, well, I'm gaining
And now
10
I get
life
Siege
somehow
Rhino
or
and,
something.
and
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yes, Wheeler.
I might play this in that black-white ruin your evening. Now that I'm
Sure.
thinking
If you have
about
so
it.
much life.
Well,
yeah.
you have
so
a
many
lot of life,
one-drops
and just
yeah.
like I'm tutoring for one drops
Yeah.
anyways.
Yeah.
And if I have more than one, then great. But like finding ephemerate, swords to plowshares,
Yeah.
and reanimate, that's
Yeah.
like all I care about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Cool
even
card.
if they kill in response, you can still get a land
Yeah.
or a mox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or is a saga.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, that's pretty great. Okay, yeah.
All right, Wheeler, you're up.
Lethal Throwdown. 1 black for sorcery as an additional cost to cast the spell. Sacrifice a creature or sacrifice a modified creature. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. If the modified creature was sacrificed, draw a card. Some of the aristocrats decks play bone shards. Some of the aggressive black decks may dip into playing bone shards as well. The 1 mana bone shards is 1 mana additional cost, sack a creature or discard a card to blow up a creature or planeswalker. So this you don't get the like reanimation pitch the card effect, but being able to sacrifice just like an orc army token made from your orcish bowmasters, or I was going to say a zombie army token made from your Razatep Reaver. Like, there are spots where you kind of, like, you just want to pay 1, lose a token, kill whatever they have on the board. And occasionally, you might just draw a card off of playing this. It's one that we could have maybe cut from this, but it's kind of neat to know
it's
that
very
it's here.
niche, but yeah, it's a cool. Well, when you see this, maybe now you'll remember. Oh,
Sacrifice your Arcbound worker.
yeah. Right?
Huh?
All right, I'm a little jealous because Nelly has one of probably the second card I'm the most hyped for in the
It's
set.
time for North 100, a lethal throwdown. Oh,
Wait, no, we
go
just
through
did
Oh, we
that.
just
Go down.
talked about
That's
this
what
one.
this one's called.
Next
Oh
card.
my god. Let me see if I can mess up doing this podcast more. It's time to talk about Marionette Apprentice. Oh, another one of the cards that we get to ask the thing. 1 black mana and 1 generic mana for a 1/2 human artificer with Fabricate 1. Since we haven't talked about Fabricate, I'll remind you, when this creature enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on it, or make a 1/1 colorless servo artifact token. Subscribe Servo Facts. Whenever another creature or artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life. What?
Yeah.
Hello? Blood Artist? Blood Artist is a 1/2 that also brings a 1/1 to chump block or sacrifice?
Well,
Incredible.
The artifact is the big thing, not just the blood artist
or
part.
artifact. Yeah, exactly.
That's the part.
Blood Artist does say any creature, like not that you
Yes.
control,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
So that's the trade-off, to be clear. It's not definitely stepping on Blood Artist, but it's stepping on Blood Artist in the ways that we care about.
this card is not. There's not a good 1-to-1, but it's like
Yeah.
it's like Disciple of the Vault, Zulport, Cutthroat together. You know,
yeah,
like you just
yeah,
have to find
yeah.
all these cards. and-
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So really exciting include for any decks that were playing Disciple of Vault or Zulport Cutthroat, and I don't think it's like pushing any new ground or anything. It's just another great Blood Artist effect. So put it in the Blood Artist deck, also known as Bourgeoisie.
Or food fight.
Oh yeah, you.
I really like this for the food fight. I like this in the red-black Aristascraps sort of thing. Like if there's a lot of decks with the prevalence and insert another P word for proliferation of treasure tokens and artifact tokens that we're seeing so often, you can get so much value out of this. I don't know if necessarily it's the win con that those decks are looking for, but I'm very excited about it because it represents a huge amount of damage.
Yeah.
That's my
big-
final thought.
Big
card
like
rules.
this one. Yeah. Not a ton to say. Play it. Yeah.
All right, next up, we have Mutilated Cultist. And this
Mutated.
Mutated Cultist, thank you. This is from the Commander product. 3 mana, 2 and a black gets you a 1/3 Eldrazi Horror with Devoid, which means it's a colorless card, even though it says black in the top corner. When you cast the spell, remove all counters from up to 1 target permanent or opponent. The next spell you cast costs 1 less to cast for each counter removed this way, and it has Death Touch. This may as well just say, make Merit Lodge.
Well, I mean, it does more than that.
It does more
Yeah,
than that.
then you get
So-
to cast a free Ugin.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
Wait, what?
I mean, I didn't even think about the second part, the cost reduction from it, because I'm already thinking about it. So if you've played with Vampire Hexmage, you already are familiar with how powerful it can be to remove all counters from either permanent you control or permanent your opponent controls. So this eats Planeswalkers. This enables your Merit Lodge just by itself. This is sort of a 2-card combo. And it also comes to a 1/3 that has Death Touch. So Vampire Hexmage was a 2/1 first strike vampire for black. I think this is easier to include, and I think this is probably just a better card. And then, of course, as we mentioned, there's also the cost reduction on the next spell. God, make Dark Depth, and you just have like mana drain mana afterwards. Like that can really, really accelerate
I'm
you.
shocked that you have not mentioned a magic card that gets mentioned a lot on this podcast that has counters.
You're thinking about Urza Saga?
Yeah,
You
just
said
blow up their. No, it's gone, right?
If you put it
remove
down to
all.
0?
I think so, right? It
I
removes
thought no.
all
I
the
think if you
counters?
remove all counters from a saga, the next upkeep it puts 1 on it. It just resets and they keep going.
We're all judges, and sagas are really this hard to understand. Like, we've all read the rules for sagas before, and none of us have this memorized.
My assumption on this is if a saga has 0 counters, it doesn't go into a graveyard. The graveyard clause happens with the resolution of the final chapter on the final chapter. Isn't that
Yeah.
part of it?
Here's where I want to side with Wheeler. It's because there's a blood moon, or if like you have a saga and then a blood moon comes out, or you like it stops being a saga or something, so then it has to die. That's
it just
another weird rule.
resets it.
It does.
Does
yeah.
just reset it?
But yeah.
Okay, well, great.
All right.
Well, listen.
The rare Surge W over Wheeler.
Don't
Extra
worry. There's
value.
somebody that got 10 seconds into this discussion and they've already written up
Oh, the whole
a big
paragraph
whole
about it. Yeah.
paragraph.
Probably somebody else just copy pasted all the rules from sagas for me. Just
Yeah.
to, let's just get up in the morning and read what sagas do. Yeah, cool card though. Vampire Hexmage does cost 2 mana. It's the Theps player in me. But
But the black makes it much harder to splash into multicolored decks. So like,
I'd be excited even if it was a 4-drop, just get more Hexmages for
Yeah, it's redundancy.
for the Merit Lage into the North deck.
I mean, I've been trying to play. I mean, as the premier lands pile of the format, I've played a lot of Dark Depths Thespian Stage, and I cut Vampire Hexmage a long time ago just because it is a little bit clunky. Like, you used to value yourself to be like, okay, I can keep it around and maybe it needs a Planeswalker as part of the combo, but
That's interesting because as the premier land file to the format, when I recently played Black Green Depths, I included Hexmage because when you play it with Invasion of Ikoria, the battle tutor that also lets you find Ramanap Excavator
Alright, I haven't-
and Corsair
haven't
Crufix
played
to
it
get
with
your
the new
combo
Invasion.
going, or
That's kinda
Titania,
sick.
you
That's
can find
kinda
Hexmage to then cash it in on the battle if you really
fun.
want to. Yeah.
I like that.
I didn't even
As
think
the premier lands pile of the format, I have to recommend you include Mutated Cultist in your Into the North deck.
I didn't even think about it with battles now. Yeah, Hexmage, I have to reevaluate Hexmage with battles. That's very cool.
Honestly, let me know in the comments what spell you're excited to cast after the trigger resolves.
I do like this more than Hexmage, but I
Yeah.
think you're at the point where you go like, oh, I just want both now.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
This
And
does more than
You know what I
Hexmage.
cast after this? Green Sun Zenith for literally any card in my deck.
That's pretty good. That's not bad.
I like that one. Yeah, that's a good one.
Oh, man. All right. We talked about this
Oh, one
last
more
point. Go ahead.
This is uncounterable. It's on cast as well.
Oh, brutal.
meaning,
my God.
meaning
Yeah.
like I think it's really
That's
important to
important.
get that out of the way
Yes.
though, because like, what's scarier than a Jeskai player with like a Comet or a Minskenbu or like a Teferi and mana open?
Yeah.
Right.
And you just can't get rid of it.
Is it my
Hell
turn?
yeah.
No,
No,
who's up?
that is me.
that was me.
Oh, I get to talk about the bad Necro.
Yeah.
Great. A little redundant.
Anyways, Wheeler, you're up.
Necro Dominance. Black, legendary enchantment. Skip your draw step. At the beginning of your end step, you may pay any amount of life. If you do, draw that many cards. Your maximum hand size is 5. And if a card or token would be put into your graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. Just a heads up, before I talk about this card, we are a 100 card singleton format. And the closest comparison to this card, the homage that this card is making, Necropotence, is a card that is banned in Legacy and restricted in Vintage. Those are 60 card formats, and those are formats that have access to 4 copies of Dark Ritual and Moxen and all that jazz. All right. This card sucks. I think Necropotence is atrocious in Canlander. I think it's always been bad. If you play Necropotence against me, I feel like I've just won the game. There's no way I'm losing. And then this one, like they do have different little interactions where Necro is a triggered ability on discarding a card, meaning that if you were playing Necro and like you Necro into like an Entomb to get a reanimation target to bring back, and that's how you're going to kill me or try to get out from this lock that you put yourself under because you're a big dum-dum, then like
I gotta bring back my Ashen Rider to blow up my own Necro.
Yeah, exactly. You can Pithing Needle a Necro, right? There's all that. But Necro also doesn't actually draw the cards, lets you get above 5, get up to 7, which is really important because if you've ever been stupid enough to play Necropotence in your Highlander deck, you'll know that you might get locked and have to do it all over again as you try to doggy paddle to some kind of position where you can start winning.
Everyone at this table has brought Necropotence to tournaments in Victoria.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
time and time again.
Yeah, of course.
This comes from a deeply personal place of being betrayed by Necropotence over and over. We've tried it with Venser's Journal.
Yes.
We've tried to get around it.
We're all idiots. A little quick story. It was after a Highlander, and we're at Swans.
Okay.
And I just played mono black, like control with Necropotence and Venser and everything. And I put into my shirt pocket my like beat down foil promo Necropotence, my foil Cabal coffers
from the vaults, right?
No, before that.
Okay.
I put all these cards in my
One
pocket.
with the D expansion symbol. Yeah.
And then I put that shirt in the wash, destroyed all those cards, and I was stupid enough to buy another copy of Necropotence. Necro Dominance, though, to actually talk about this card a bit, is that it is so easy to get trapped under your own Necro. And this one in particular, what are you going to do if they play Hullbreacher, Leovold, Narset, Orcish Bowmasters, Shieldred, like whatever? You just cannot activate this, and you can't use this anymore.
Right.
And you're just stuck. And your avenues to potentially win with your black card that's really committed to black, doing the things that black tends to do, which use the graveyard, like, it just doesn't work. So this card might be good in 60 card formats.
Yeah.
But here, no, you're not always going to have Dark Ritual. You're not always going to have Black Lotus. You're not me. You're somebody else. Somebody else trying to play this card in Necropotence. Don't do that. Learn from my mistakes. Learn from our mistakes.
You can learn from our mistakes too if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead, play Nethergoyf.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's move on to Nelly then.
Hell yeah.
No, I'm not done berating people.
No. Nelson, please.
Well, I don't want to repeat everything, but Wheeler's right. Nethergoyf is a 1 black mana Lurgoyf. It's got Lurgoyf stats like the Tarmogoyf before, except wait, it only counts your graveyard. So its power is equal to the number of card types in your graveyard, and its toughness is number of card types in your graveyard plus 1. And that's it, except it also has Escape for 2 and a black, and exile any number of other cards from your graveyards with 4 or more card types among them. So you could be doing like exile your Phyrexian Metamorph and your Urza's Saga. Like, it might just be 2 cards. It might be a full 4 different cards to fill Delirium. It's kind of an interesting callback to Delirium with the escape clause there. But 1 drop, Tarmogoyf only looks at your graveyard, and it has escape. Yes, please. Like, I want to play this and attack with it. I will be trying it out in mono black aggro, but you can try it out in any black deck that wants a creature and can make black mana. This one's quite good. I don't think it's as good as that cat that makes 1,000,000 cats, but I still think this card's really good.
Nelson, I'm a blue player. Can I play a 1 mana 3/4?
No,
you put it that way.
You legit have to spend black mana one way or the other. You can just early turns discard this to your Faithless Looting if you want. Could see it maybe in like...
Sorry, I'm a blue player with an Underground Sea. Can I play this card too?
Sure, if you want, I suppose.
Great.
As long as you have some charter courses and that sort of like looting effect, because I don't know if you're going to play it in the
I
early turns
love
or not.
1 mana 4/5s.
I just like that
Yeah,
there's a play
pretty
pattern
sweet.
that exists now, which is turn 1 Goyf, turn 2 Goyf, turn 3 Goyf.
Sure.
Turn 4 Goyf.
There's
Yeah.
a 4 Goyf?
And then
Oh, we're going to Mortivore.
let me have the haste one. Oh, wait, there's no sorceries in my graveyard. It's just going to die.
All right. Next up, we've got the Ripples of Undeath.
That card's really good, though.
This is a 2-mana enchantment, 1 and a black. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, mill 3 cards. Then you may pay 1 and 3 life. If you do, put a card from amongst those cards into your hand. I am kind of medium on this card. This feels like one of the worst Phyrexian arenas we've seen in a while. But that being said, effects that put cards into your graveyard are good. So if you ignore the fact that you can pay, I mean, it's nice that it's there. You have the option to pay mana and life to put it into your hands, but you're primarily using this to fuel your graveyard. Were you going to jump in and say the same thing?
Well, I mean, I was going to elaborate on that to
Sure,
very
please.
specific things.
Sure.
This wasn't originally on our list. And then I was looking at this during my stream today, and I got really high. And then I looked at this and was like, wait a minute. This card's kind of cracked. And then I sobered up. And then I looked at it again, and I was like, nope, this card is still cracked. I'm a big fan of this card. It doesn't do anything the turn you play it, which is a pretty big downside for sure, but it's only 2 mana, right?
Why doesn't it do anything the turn you play it?
Pre-combat main.
Pre-combat main phase, sorry.
If you have a way to flash it in your upkeep.
No, you're right. Doesn't do anything. Yeah, okay.
But milling 3 cards every turn is very powerful.
Yep.
Doing that after you have the knowledge of your draw step is pretty powerful. And then, yeah, just like, oh, I milled a card that wins me the game. Yeah, I'll pay 1 and 3 life. Like, it doesn't have to be mill the reanimate or the animate dead or whatever. Could be get back the duress to check to see if they've got it, and then you combo off. Like, I like this in Dredge. I like this in Reanimator. I think this card is very good.
See, I'm slightly worried about it just because our format's getting so fast of taking a turn off to play something like this. My thought, a comparison would be Search for Escanta, which is a 2 mana.
Or what about Sylvan Library?
I think that's probably the closer comparison.
I think they're trying. Yeah, I mean, Search for Escanta, it reminds me of that because they both mill cards, but it feels like it's trying to 3 cards off the top like Sylvan Library.
Sure. Sylvan Library lets you draw 3 though.
Oh, for sure. I mean, Sylvan Library is from Legends,
Yeah.
Which
different time.
doesn't work in a world of Hull Breachers, Orcish Bowmasters, Shieldred.
Yeah, this does get around draw. It doesn't say draw.
Oh no! Oh yeah, put that card into your hand.
And feels
so
a
you're only
delve.
paying 3 life instead of 2 life from Shieldred.
The fact you have to pay 3 life and a generic mana makes me think that they tested it and it was too good until
Yes.
they cranked it up to that
Interesting.
much.
Which is why I think this card
Yeah.
is
Like, wait a second.
it's like it's an awkward looking cost.
exactly.
It's awkward looking.
You don't do that unless it was cracked.
That's the developers that put 1 generic and 3 life on there. It's not the designers.
They have this at a lower cost.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, somebody did this twice and it was busted. So,
Interesting.
they gotta,
all right.
yeah.
All right.
So maybe Dredge or Reanimator specifically because you can pick up the Reanimate and leave the Gristlebrand.
Yeah.
Like it's very elegant in Reanimator. Yeah. I see it getting played there. I don't know about anywhere else, but I don't play Dredge. Let's move on to talk about
I got it. Wheeler,
You're
you're up.
Okay, you got it.
Sorry.
I thought you pointed to me,
No,
so I was trying to catch it.
I have it, gentlemen.
Wheeler.
Sorin of House Markov. 1 and a black for a 1/4 legendary human noble with lifelink and extort. At the beginning of your post-combat main phase, if you gained 3 or more life this turn, you exile Sorin and then return him to the battlefield transformed under his owner's control, which turns into Sorin Ravenous Neonate, a 3 loyalty planeswalker that still has extort. And has +2, create a food token. -1, Sorin deals damage equal to the amount of life you gain this turn to any target. And -6, gain control of target creature. It becomes a vampire in addition to its other types. Put a lifelink counter on it if you control control a white permanent other than that creature or Sorin. Paul, if you wouldn't mind going back to the front of this card.
Wait, are we 3-3 across 2 episodes with you?
You
Always.
got all the
Yeah, and
planeswalkers,
maybe
yeah.
my math is off, but I think I'm the next one too.
Nice.
So Sorin here is a 2 mana 1/4 with lifelink and extort. And that is a huge booty.
I'd want to talk about it.
That
just
is
without the trigger. Yeah.
That is so tough to get through. Like, it is a pain in the ass. Extort is kind of busted, by
Extort's
the way.
sweet.
It's really good. And you don't see it a lot because they thankfully have only printed it on commander cards, or weird little guys like Thrall Parasite. But this one has a real stat line and a real ability. And gaining 3 life in 1 turn is not that difficult to do. Food tokens, this lifelink plus extorting a couple of cheap spells, having another lifelink creature, playing that Tendrils of Corruption that only costs 2 mana, Deathrite Shaman. Like, there are so many ways of gaining 3 life in a single turn. To get Sorin to go to the Ravenous Neonate, which it still has extort. It just sits around. Like, if you transform this, tick it up to 5 loyalty on your Planeswalker with extort. It is so tough to get this off the board. If you're a little worried of it still, this transforms and then immediately minuses 1 to dome something for 3 to clear the board.
Lightning Helix attached to your Planeswalker.
Yeah,
right?
more or less. The ability doesn't gain you the life, but you've already, in order to use it, you've gained the life, etc., etc. Yeah, this card's cracked. It's very good. And the ultimate is like also pretty relevant, right? Flips, you plus, then you steal a thing. That's whatever. They're probably dead by now.
Can I, just about the play pattern that we just described, can I check one more time? When does the trigger? Is it the beginning of your post-combat? Oh, great. So you can attack, but importantly, it's your main phase still, so you can also use your plans. That makes sense. That's what I thought. I just wanted to double check. There's another straightforward play pattern where you're just making a couple food tokens and then just eating all the food in 1 turn and fireballing them in the face because it's any target. Just want to make sure everyone saw that on the. We all saw it says any target. Pretty wild card.
Where are you playing this, Wheeler?
I'm playing this in any deck that has black that wants to gain some life and play a mid-rangey kind of deck, like food fight.
How many 2-mana legends is too many for a deck? Asking for a friend, and that friend is the food fight deck.
I think food fight might need to play like Ghost Quarter, just more things to get Caracas off the field.
Right. Yeah, playing all the Field of Ruins.
That's a good thing to complain about. Is that, oh no, my deck that is supposedly like, when you hear food fight or whatever, it's like a clunky engine deck, but you're built around 2 drops primarily.
Yeah.
There are a bunch of 3s, but you have so many 2s and like the best color spread for cheap 1 mana disruption. It's kind of why Ruin Your Evening unfortunately works, is because all your cards are like 1 and 2 mana. And then you get to the 3 mana, you're like, oh, I'm locked. I get it. That's kind of what Food Fight is. And this is a card that fits into both those strategies and is really annoying, lets you clear the board and close the game. Something those decks really are looking for.
All right, next up, Nelly.
I want to tell you about the creation of Avacyn. Now, this card, just before we get started, we were on the fence about whether or not we'd talk about it, but we'll get into that. It's a saga, so an enchantment, for 1 black, and for the first chapter, you search your library for a card, any card, exile it face down, and then shuffle. For the second chapter, you turn the exiled card face up. If it's a creature card, you lose life equal to its mana value. For the third chapter, you may put the exiled card onto the battlefield. If it's a creature card, if it's a creature, that's not a comma. If you don't put it on the battlefield, put it into your hand. So basically there's 2 modes to this card. You can either tutor up a creature from your deck, and then the turn later you're going to pay life equal to its mana value, and then the third turn you're going to get it onto the battlefield without paying its mana cost. But you did pay that life. This all takes 3 whole turns, unless you're proliferating or something. Or you can tutor up any card, and then eventually just put it into your hand. Any card that's not a creature. If you pick a creature, you have to lose the life, but you don't have to put it on the battlefield. If you don't put it on the battlefield, you'll still get the creature in your hand. Those are all
this choose your own adventure.
Those are all the potential situations. And when I read all this and tank on it, I just think, wow, maybe that's broken. Probably it's kind of unplayable because it's so slow. And I don't know. Have you formed an opinion? Does anyone are you coming down hard on one side or the other? I don't have immediately a place to put it. Just too slow.
I think it stinks. Well, it's slow. It telegraphs what you're doing. The way that it's paced also just like means that like, oh, you got a Gristlebrand and lost 8? Well, I could just kill you, or I could just kill this.
Sure.
And if you're finding the like thinking of like the best scenarios, the scenarios of what you're finding that you're willing to wait, it's probably a big creature you want to cheat into play, or like even if it's finding like Shieldred, like you're losing 4 life and then the next turn you're getting it. I have time to prepare to get my card draw in to do whatever. And then like, what if we're not getting a creature and we're getting like Time Vault or Tendrils of Agony or
Right.
some big card that we're fine casting the world's worst Profane Tutor for?
Right.
That is face down. Then they reveal it and go, oh, I need to care about that.
Right.
Oh, but also get an opportunity to blow this up, and then your like titular card is stuck in like the forever zone.
It feels like a card that kind of embodies like the mono black challenge you were talking about earlier or whatever, where it's like, I could see a scenario where you have a deck that doesn't mind both of those situations, and so it actually like gains some power and flexibility because it could cheat in a Grave Titan or a Wormcoil Engine and be fine with this getting blown up, or it might go get a Duress. And like also be fine waiting 2 turns, but like it's kind of a hard card to include.
I got a very important question.
Yep.
When something is put down into exile face down, can you still interact with it?
The face down card in exile?
Correct.
I mean, only with this.
Because typically when it's face down, when a card is placed face down in the exile zone, I'm specifically thinking of Food Chain Combo.
Oh,
Okay.
And the 2 creatures that can be cast from exile.
Oh, wow.
Bam, Silver Bullet.
well,
Wild.
good news, Serge.
Wild.
Food Chain's a green card. Squeeze a red card. Mist Hollow Griffin's a blue card. So we can, an Academy Rector's a
Your
white card.
They
mana's
can't
perfect.
They can't ever be in the same deck because they're different colors.
So the second judge call I have for today is if you have a face down creature in exile, can you cast it from exile?
yeah. No.
I don't believe
I don't
think
believe
no.
so either.
If
So
you go
even-
get Miss Hall Griffin, I don't think you can cast it.
it's not because you can't even look at it.
That's what my thought is. If
Yeah,
you can't
it's
look at
hidden
it, you can't-
information.
Yeah. That's why it's face
Yeah,
down.
I mean, I don't even
But you
know
know
if
what
the
it is
rules
because-
have this clause in them or not.
Right?
Like,
That's-
like
this
they
is
must.
so
They
niche.
must be
No,
something
alright.
else that exiles Moonwall Griffin face down.
Let's all agree that this is bad. Let us know what you think. And
Yes!
let's move on. All right, the final black card we're going to talk about today is Warren Soul Trader. This is a 3-mana 3/3 zombie goblin wizard for 2 and a black. Pay 1 life, sack another creature, create a treasure token. Is that the most stacked creature type line you've ever seen?
Could be
Zombie goblin wizard?
Could be an elf.
Yeah, it could be
Yeah.
elf.
Yeah.
That's fair.
So I like this. I like this a lot. This is effectively a free sack outlet. You're limited by the fact that you have 20 life, but you can do some unbelievably broken stuff with that, specifically in zombie or goblin decks that have an abundance of creatures and could sometimes turn those into mana. In goblins, for example, there's Skirk Prospector, which sacrifices a goblin to turn it into a red mana. I haven't thought about the lines. Maybe Wheeler has some stuff prepared here, but turning creatures, it doesn't even say non-token creatures, turning creatures into mana and being able to color fix that mana into mana of any color, and also turning those into artifacts. This is very powerful. This is very broken. You can do some amazing stuff. with
This card's nuts, but I didn't realize until just now that it's actually a Soldevi Ad Nate
Yeah.
callback. I didn't realize it's like a love letter to Soldavi Ad Nate or Adante or whatever that. What's that card called?
Adnate.
Is it Ad
Adnate.
Nate? I said it right the first time. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, my combo with this is, and get ready, because I think I've figured out how to break a card that we've talked about a bit before, but with...
Wait, hold on. Wait, what's this? Sacrifice a black or artifact creature to add an amount of black.
This isn't even the right one.
Yeah, no, Nelson got it wrong.
Which card am I thinking of that translates
I didn't want to
generic
call you
mana
out.
into black mana from the same set? Damn it. Sorry. What the hell's that one called? Some sort of cleric of Turak or
You were
something?
close, though. All right.
Never
Wheeler.
mind.
Yeah, all right,
Never
Wheeler.
mind.
Skull Clamp.
Oh yeah, just
You put a clamp on a thing, you
And then you can
sacrifice
sacrifice
it,
it?
you
Wow.
draw 2 cards, you make a treasure, you then use that treasure to equip the skull clamp.
beauty.
You've broken Skull
I did it. I
Climb.
broke skull clamp.
Congratulations.
This card doesn't need to be fancy. It's
No.
just like you play it in your goblins, zombies, or aristocrats.
Well,
Yeah.
I want to say because Shivam tweeted it, it's like it does go infinite immediately with only Blood Artist and Gravecrawler. because this is a zombie specifically. But like there's 100 other combos too.
Yeah, I mean, there are zombies that are blood artists
Yeah.
in the zombies deck itself, like Wayward Servant and Diregraph Captain. I don't know if Captain drains or just like makes them lose a life, but you're an aggressive deck. You could probably push them below a life total of yours. But yeah, this card's great.
Correct.
All right, let's move on to red. Wheeler.
Amped Raptor. 1 in a red for a 2/1 first striking dinosaur. When Amped Raptor enters the battlefield, you get 2 energy. Then, if you cast it from your hand, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card. You may cast that card by paying an amount of energy equal to its mana value rather than its mana cost. This card is so busted. It's not as busted in our format as opposed to 60-card formats, but still, 2 mana, 2/1, first strike. Hits play. I get the energy. I exile cards. Oh, Robber of the Rich. I'm going to pay 2 energy and get myself a Robber of the Rich. So that's pretty good. Oh, I hit a shock. Well, I just paid 2 mana to get a 2-power first strike creature, and I've now just shocked your creature. That's pretty good. I think this card is pretty good. I'm excited to play this card in red deck wins or mono red aggro. Those are decks that don't have a huge amount of 3-drops. There are some awkward spots where you're like, oh, I hit a Fire Blast, or I hit Fire Blast, or like Skewer the Critics, or whatever. But then you still just have a 2-power first strike creature, which, again, they don't print first strike anymore. Like, it's just not a thing they do that often because it sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks.
First strike isn't a fun ability, right?
It's not fun.
No.
It's really oppressive, and it's very powerful, especially when you pair it with Red Burn.
They've been increasingly making first strike as first strike when attacking.
Yeah.
To avoid like the board stalls or something like that.
Except when they're on like mythic rares or in this set where it's modern
Everything's
Horizons.
mythic rare.
Yeah, like this card. And Gruul Blitz too. Not just mono red. You could play it in like Gruul Blitz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can structure your deck so that it never misses if you want, if this card's really important to you. And I think in 60-card people will do that a bunch.
Yeah.
In our format, probably you're just going to take the hit where you reveal your Fire Blast.
Yeah, just take that out.
Once for every 7 times you reveal your Inti and your Lightning Strike. Yeah.
All right, Nelly, you're up.
I want to tell you about Detectives Phoenix, but I don't have it memorized.
Hold.
Old for Paul. I'm pretty sure it recurs.
2 in a red.
Yeah, 2. You remember the cast costs. That's good. 2 in a red gets you a 2/2 Enchantment Phoenix with Bestow, which costs 1 red, and Collect Evidence 6. And you probably remember from MKM, that's exiling cards from your graveyard with mana value 6 total among any number of cards. It has Flying and Haste. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and has Flying and Haste. And you may cast Detective Phoenix from your graveyard by using its Bestow ability. So super cool. Really interesting magic design here, bringing in the Theros-style enchantment creatures with Bestow and the MKM Collect Evidence ability to create a new kind of recurring Phoenix. This one, like most of them, has haste, but can also just give another creature haste for only 1 red mana. And there's kind of like there's a really long set of pants that this fits into now, I guess, is one of them, where it's like 1 mana in red exclusively to give something haste.
By pants, Nelson means auras.
Yeah, and equipment. Yeah, I mean auras and equipment. Although there's also some creatures, 1 mana red creatures too. Like there's a bunch of, there's this long list of the cards that give other cards haste. And so this is part of that, as well as just being another Phoenix, which is a flying attacker that can recur. Because you're going to bestow from your graveyard, and then if that creature dies, now you've got your Phoenix back again. So just tons of value you're getting. I like this card a lot. I don't think it's one of the best cards in the set because the set is so wild. But yeah, I think you play this in Boros. What do you think?
I think Phoenixes are kind of underrated in mono red.
It's hard to find places for them. Yeah.
Yeah, I like this one and Phoenix of Ash from Theros Beyond Death.
Okay.
Like those cards.
Is that a 4/1?
No, it's a 3 mana 2/2 flying haste. You can pay 3 to give it +2/+0, but you can escape it for 4 and 3 cards.
Right.
And then when you escape it, it becomes a 3/3.
Right.
But just, they're like evasion plus haste plus like recursion.
It wasn't even the haste for me, it's the flying. The +2/+2 and flying is the part that's cracked. I might even like this in like red white double strike.
Sure.
Or something like that, just because it feels very cheap to include. It's a great threat by itself, and it's doubling power, it's level up power when adding to any other good threat is absurd.
It's kind of nice because even for a deck that sounds as linear as red deck wins, and it is a pretty linear deck, but there are like variations on how you want to build it. Like, are you on 3 drops? Are you getting a little chunkier and even including like a Chandra or a Hazoret up top? Are you going to like play these evasive cards? Are you all in on pump spells? And this is kind of like a thing that you can put in the package of some of the cards Nelson was mentioning, and just give it that little extra reach. I gotta say, my biggest complaint about this card is there's no way in hell you made this card Detectives Phoenix. You had this artwork, you gave it collect evidence, and you're like, this mechanically works great. How do we tie it into evidence?
And then we drew the detective at the bottom.
That's not a detective. That's like a wizard.
That's a wizard, yeah.
It's got the hat. Look, you can see the square hat, kind of.
Oh,
Yeah.
crap.
Maybe the hat was painted on.
Yeah, that was added in post.
I'm not
after.
buying it. I'm not buying
That's
it.
very funny.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the artist's tell-all.
Sure.
But yeah, I just realized you could definitely play this in Gruul Monsters as well.
Suit up your mana dork.
Sure. Hell yeah.
Next up, we've got the Eldrazi Line Breaker. This is a 3-mana 3/3 Eldrazi for 1, a colorless. And I don't think we've talked about that yet in the 2 parts of the episode so far. So this weird mana symbol, if you've never seen it before, which would have been from the second Eldrazi block, the second
Both of the Gatewatch.
Both of the Gatewatch. You have to pay a colorless for it. So if you're in your pre-release situation, you'll be playing wastes. Otherwise, Sol Ring taps for it. Like a bunch of cards were actually errata to produce colorless or generic mana. No, this is specifically colorless, not
It's
generic.
just produce. So generic mana is the name for the cost that can be anything.
That's
like
the
the
one
one can
beside
be a
it, yeah.
blue or green,
Yeah.
but colorless is produced from things that say the same numbers, the gray numbers, right?
Yeah. So there you go. And a red mana. It has Devoid, so it is colorless despite the red symbol. It has Trample, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gains haste and gets +X/+O until end of turn, where X is the number of Eldrazi's that you control. Now, although it doesn't say 2 in a red, this does cast for Ancient Tomb mana. So you have a 3/3 Trample that can come into play on turn 2, and it can give itself haste and attacks as a 4/3 with Trample. Or every turn afterwards, it gives every threat you play on curve haste.
So Wheeler, what felt better, just winning tournaments with medium red, or finding out that your deck that you built for your format that like was really small at the time, I guess in hindsight, but is like, just been steadily growing, but still an underground format, has enough attention from Wizards that people at R&D were like, we need to build these cards for Canadian Highlander medium red.
I do have to give some credit to Nathan Hogman.
Nice.
Collaborative
Fair.
effort.
Fair. Nathan Hogman.
But yeah, I certainly feel vindicated that this deck ended up being so good it got like 8 points added to cards. And that now when we get cards like this, it's like, oh, we're eating good.
Yeah.
This card's cracked.
This is so good.
Yeah.
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 Medium red, Gruul Monsters.
Gruul might be tough.
You don't like a creature that attacks as a 4/3 and it gives haste to everything that follows afterwards?
Well, in a mono red deck, it's easier to justify a bunch of colorless mana cards,
Right.
Especially
Okay.
when we're
No,
playing.
that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. No, I get you. Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a no for Gruul Monsters. I'm just saying that like
The colorless is hard.
it might be
100%.
tough.
Like in Gruul Monsters, you get to play Helana and Elena, right? Whereas in medium red now, you have this playing the same role, right?
Yeah, but you have Reckless Storm,
Right, and there's
too.
a Storm Seeker. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's more of them, but I don't know. Yeah, I agree. It's like a little bit harder to cast the wingings in the green deck.
All right, Wheeler, you're up next.
Fanged Flames, 1 and a red for a sorcery with Devoid. Fanged Flames deals 4 damage to target creature or planeswalker. If that creature or planeswalker would die this turn, exile it instead. Not the sexiest card on the list, but we have the card Obliterating Bolt does see the occasional play in Blue Moon, which is this, but not Devoid. And Devoid's pretty important because I love Mother of Runes, but Mother of Runes deserves to die sometime.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's important to kill Mother of Runes.
Killing mom, getting around other forms of protection
Yeah.
from this color or whatnot is just handy dandy to have.
I'm trying to think back
Remember when
to.
people played Core Firewalker?
I was about to say Core Firewalker. I remember
Hey,
I
it's still
was
good.
literally going to tell a story of on Monday night where somebody meted in Ghost Flame
Ghostfire.
and managed to kill a Firewalker with it, and everybody clapped. Everybody was like, "Yeah, you made the right call." So this
Everybody
is
clapped.
Nelson stopped the tournament and was
Yeah,
like,
and
"Hey,
everyone's like,
everybody,
"Hey, we just
I
need
need
to-"
everybody to know." Yeah.
Worth mentioning that Devoid is not always going to be a positive because if you have something like Fury, it
Yes.
won't be able to pitch to that. But if you have Fury, I think you're okay. I think you'll be fine.
Yeah.
all right. Nelly, you're up.
I get to talk about Flare of Duplication, the red flare. It's 1 red for an instant with, of course, you may sacrifice a red creature, non-token red creature instead of paying its cost, and copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Now, I'm glad I got this one because I am a fan of spell copying spells, and there's not very many homes for these kind of twin casts and fork cards, but I have made use of them in tournament-winning Curb Your Enthusiasm decks. So, like, when I see a twin cast or a fork, I don't immediately turn my nose down. That said, I'm not sure which deck wants this. I prefer the blue ones. Usually that's what I'm like interested in copying a Time Walk specifically or other cards that are in the Time Walk deck. You've played a lot of really big red burn spells before. I could see like a home if you're straight up like duplicating your Inspired Ultimatum or something, or you're like, your massive burn spell and you have red creatures around to do that. Maybe there's a home, but I
do like keeping tabs on Mono Red Storm.
Right.
But I think this card is at its best probably in my Ben Aki Hermit Commander deck.
Yeah.
Or
that was the deck I was thinking of when I was
Sure,
thinking about you casting giant
It's
burn
really
spells.
good when you have 40 life and a big gulp on the table, and like that's it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, definitely, I wouldn't put this into red deck wins. I wouldn't put this into goblins. I wouldn't put it into Boros humans. I'm not sure which deck.
Okay, Sam, I am.
I would not play
I would
this
not
on
play this in
on
goblins.
Yes,
I would not play in red deck wins.
I would not play it on.
with twins.
I would not play it on a Monday. I would not play it. You shouldn't either. Yay.
All right, next up is me with the Frogmere Enforcer. This is a 7-mana 4/4 artifact creature Frogmere. It also has Prototype, so 3 in a red, you can cast it as a 2/2, and it has Affinity for Artifacts, which is probably the case that I'm only ever going to play this. There are a lot of older cards from like Scars of Mirrodin block, and maybe a couple of these Masters sets that have brought Affinity back. If you're playing a deck with a high density of artifact creatures, having a free 4/4 is very cool and very good. There's also hilarious from the other episode. There's like a 3-mana Devoid blue spell that cares if you cast a colorless 7-drop. This would apply for that. That's extremely niche. But if you're playing like battle bots or artifact beatdown decks, play this. Otherwise, you can probably sleep on it.
Redundancy.
Yeah.
More Teletubbies.
Yeah.
Hey.
It's exciting that you get that. I don't know. I'm excited for more of these threats.
I prefer Mpreg Enforcer.
Yeah. No, I mean,
I don't know what that means, and I think I'm scared.
Yeah, don't Google it when you get home,
All right,
Serge.
we'll just move on to the next card, Wheeler.
Galvanic Discharge. 1 red for an instant. You choose target creature or planeswalker. You get 3 energy. Then you may pay any amount of energy. Galvanic Discharge deals that much damage to that permanent. So this might actually be the most impactful card from the set. And the most ubiquitous card in the set. It's really good. I'm Strangle's #1 fan, which is just 1 mana sorcery, deal 3 damage to creature or planeswalker. This is an instant. And this also ties into something we've kind of hinted for some of these energy cards, where you don't need to play other energy cards to make this one good. 1 mana, deal 3 damage to a creature, planeswalker, instant speed. Great. But it doesn't always have to be 3 damage. If I just need to kill a bird, I can pay 1 mana, kill your bird, and then I get to float 2 energy. And then because it's a cheap spell, and this is Highlander, you're probably going to run into a Snapcaster Mage or a Dreadhorde Arcanist or a Jace Vryn's Prodigy, something like that. And then in that case, when you're flashing this back, all of a sudden you can now kill a Shieldred. You can kill a Seasoned Dungeoneer, a Questing Beast, because you have that leftover energy that is kind of just being stockpiled. So it's not the sexiest thing in the world. It's just incredibly efficient, fits well for our format, and it does have like added flexibility if you cast it a second time or have access to your graveyard.
Sick.
Yeah.
Or you're playing that sick Soul Ward. And so on. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about Mog. No, let's talk about Inventors.
Nope.
There's a blue line. There's a blue box around the what I thought I was supposed to talk about. Let's talk about Ghostfire Slice. Sorry, everyone. It's 2 and a red for an instant with Devoid that deals 4 damage to any target, but it costs 2 less to cast if an opponent controls a multicolored purpurulent.
Purpurulent.
Anyways, this is a pretty cool card. So 3 mana instant, 4 damage any target. That's actually pretty decent. 1 more mana for 1 more damage than Lightning Strike. Your opponent controlling a multicolored permanent, I don't know. It probably happens more than a quarter of the time.
Have you played Magic the Gathering?
Like, have you read a Comet or a Minsc and Boo? I feel like if you're losing, it's because your opponent controls a multicolored permanent. So in the scenario where it's a 1 mana better Lightning Bolt, like that's very, very good. Yeah, I think you should consider this card if you have red mana available.
Yeah. Again, downsides, doesn't pitch to Fury.
Sure.
Yeah.
Upsides, 4 damage for 1 mana.
4 damage, 1 mana.
Yeah.
4 damage for 3 mana, still not bad.
Yeah.
Just like end of turn, fire it off.
Yep.
It's fine. Yeah. 4 damage, especially because it goes to the face specifically, like getting to char them, I think makes it, I think, like, it hasn't been that long since, like, playing the 3 mana, 4 damage burn spells. Like, it's still if you're in a committed burn deck, I think
Char
you're going to get some in.
still kills people.
Yeah.
Yep.
Char still kills people.
You're probably not playing it, but it would still kill you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you're not playing it very often, but, like, that is the floor. And you don't even take 2 damage with this card. It's just char. Yeah. No, fantastic
Sick.
burn spell.
Next up, we have the Inventor's Axe. This is a 1 mana piece of equipment. It has flash. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 2 energy. When it enters the battlefield, attach it to a creature you control. Equipped creature gets +2/+0, and to equip it, you can pay 2 energy. So, what if Bone Splitter cost a red and automatically attached for free? So you have a very high upside, which is the free Bone Splitter. The potential downside is after it gets removed twice, if you don't have another energy source, you can't reattach it to anything. But the keyword there is after it gets unattached twice. So you get quite a lot of upside for a very low cost to inclusion. And the fact that it has flash, I don't know when the last time you've killed somebody with
Embercleave.
Ambercleave was.
Why am I so good at this?
I don't know why you're so good at reading
Like-
the Serge there. It's amazing. But historically, people in Canadian Highlander don't play enough combat tricks or play around enough combat tricks. And you can really muck people with something like this, especially in equipment decks, which typically leverage creatures with first strike or double strike and stuff like this. Like this is, yeah.
Very solid bone splitter right here.
Wheeler?
I'm sitting next to 2 of Bone Splitter's biggest fans.
And you got to say you love this Bone Splitter?
Do you not have a home for this? You're not putting it in anything or what?
I just think it's bad.
You just think it's a bad card, period?
Yeah, because it's funny that you mentioned, like, it doesn't matter if you just can't equip it, because in order for that to have happened, you would have to have equipped Bone Splitter, like, twice.
Right.
And to me, that's the strength of Bone Splitter, is that, like, if I'm going to give credit to this card,
Sure.
is that it makes everything a threat.
Right, okay.
It just, like, constantly does something. The flash is kind of neat, but, like, running out of energy with this card feels real bad.
That is true.
But like
Yeah.
in those early turns, like you've just played you've untapped, you have your creature, it's turn 2. Now instead of equipping Bone Splitter, you get to play another 1-drop.
How many Bone Splitters do you need?
Hmm.
I mean, I'm high on any 1 mana artifact that happens
was
to be
gonna
an
say,
I
equipment.
just think it's crucial to point out that this card equips for free.
Yeah.
For free mana, yeah.
Yeah.
And the equip for free, I know, sorry, you said equip for free for not paying mana for the equip.
Yeah.
Like, it enters equipped as well, which is probably what you said and what you meant.
It's okay. Yeah.
We were talking about, in the previous episode, Pure Steel Paladin coming back. Gets around the energy requirement.
Costs red mana.
Whatever.
Yeah.
That's fine. I mean, at its best, this is a cool flash bone splitter.
Yeah.
And so it's like not the most important card. And like there's some crazy bangers in the set. But if you're a fan of bone splitter, maybe on the level of Serge or I, you probably want to consider this because
Excellent summation.
Now, if I'm equipping this to a Leonin Sky Hunter, now we're talking.
You're allowed to play Leonin Sky Hunter in the Adventures accent.
Unfortunately, no, I'm not.
All right, Wheeler, you're up.
Mog Mob. Red,
I beg your
red.
pardon?
Mog Mob. Red, red, red for a 3/3 goblin. Sacrifice Mog Mob. It deals 3 damage divided as you choose among 1, 2, or 3 targets. This is a continuation of the Llanowar Tribe Healer's Flock Mega Cycle. I am conflicted. I look at this card and I just say, just play Goblin Chain Whirler, and then nobody plays Goblin Chain Whirler. And then I think more people should play Goblin Chain Whirler.
Goblin Chain Whirler is pretty messed up.
Yeah, it's got
pretty
first
good.
strike. It
3/3
domes
first strike, yeah.
everything.
Everything.
And it taps them as well, or no?
No.
No.
I'm confusing that with something else.
But if you give it Death Touch instance, it kills everything.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's, I mean, a 3-mana 3/3 Goblin is weirdly fine.
Yeah.
But Goblins has so many 3-drops that, like, are you really cutting something for this card? My thought is no, it's just a little below the power level, but I wouldn't be that surprised if I just died to this card from like a mono red pilot.
I think it's fine in mono red. I also kind of like this card in Blue Moon because you're usually playing a bunch of red sweepers, right? Like, I haven't played Blue Moon in a minute.
Yeah, I can
but
tell.
But I've played Blue Moon a bunch.
I know.
Do you still play sweepers? Yeah, like if you have sweepers, it's nice to have divided damage cards to be like, okay, well, I also want to kill your Questing Beast or whatever. And it's just kind of like sits in a place where you get to 6 mana and then you're like, okay, I'm going to play this additional problem at like this additional answer that's a permanent that I can like kill something in the future on layaway. Like instant speed Arc Trail. Or not even. It's better than that one. Arc Lightning. Thank you. Arc Lightning is fairly powerful.
Yeah.
So, you do have to play it as a sorcery, but then once it resolves, you've got this activated ability available too. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think this card's pretty solid on rate.
There is something to be said about just like casting this card, and then when you're facing it down, you're like, and they're going to sacrifice it, right? And then they don't, and they just turn it sideways.
Yeah.
just keep hitting you with it over and over.
I'm going to take like at least 6 damage from this card.
Yeah, no, you just want to put it there and like make your opponent play worse because you have a
Like, I
Mogbob
can't
in
play my elf out ever.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, Nelly, you're up.
It's time to talk about Party Thrasher. 1 and a red for a 1/4 Lizard Wizard. Kathleen summoned. Non-creature spells you cast from exile have Convoke, which means you can tap creatures while casting them to pay for 1 generic of that creature's color. God, words are hard.
Yeah.
At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, you may discard a card. If you do, exile the top 2 cards of your library, then choose one of them. You may play that card this turn. So, non-creature spells you cast from exile have Convoke, and it exiles cards at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase as long as you discard a card first. A lot going on here with this card. It is a 2-drop, 1/4. Maybe not as immediately powerful as Sorin, but lets you kind of cast free spells, right? It's a red creature, so if you want to discard your extra mountain that you don't need, and then you exile a lightning bolt from the top of your library, it can cast that. It's doing this every pre-combat main phase that it's alive. It only costs 2 mana, and it's not really net cards. You discard 1 card, and then you exile 2 and pick 1, and you're allowed to cast that one. So it's just filtering every turn. It's some fairly good filtering when it's like every turn you're sort of like looking at 2. I guess I don't know what comparison there is. Rummage 1 card away, C2, keep 1.
I don't know
if we have a card that does that.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything.
I think it does nothing.
No, I
I don't
think
think
you're
it's
spinning your
good.
wheels here. I don't think this does anything.
All right.
It's a weird engine card that needs support, but for what?
And doesn't have like an aggressive stat line to fall on.
Yeah.
And is like, I would just rather, if I'm going to play a card like this, I would rather play like Magmatic Chandler from Zendikar Rising, the like taps to do this ability, but
into a
it's also
4/4,
just a 4/4.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. And then that card is just like out modded at this point.
So there's only one other card I can think of that gives your other spells Convoke, and I really like it, but it is a very particular card. It's a demon from March of the Machines that costs 8 mana and isn't Roots
Oh, the
Card Demon.
Brood Lord?
Yeah, exactly. Hoarding Brood Lord also gives your spells you cast from exile Convoke. And that card's quite powerful and has found a home in a deck that I like. So, I don't know. I could say revisiting this card, but yeah, certainly just parsing what this does was a bit of work. And it kind of screams Commander to me now that I think about it.
Why is it here?
Yeah.
I mean, Commander's the real reason. It's also like, I mean, there's probably a deck with this card in T and like Lelia and Modern or whatever.
Yeah, there's a world in which if you have support for cards from Exile specifically, maybe it's interesting, but I don't think this.
I mean, it's not Canadian Highlander Horizons, right? It's Commander Horizons.
Yep.
So it makes sense.
Yep. All right. Next up, we have, and I'm glad I have this, we have Power Balance, which, if nothing else, I love that this exists. My old counterbalance boomer self is loving this. All right, red gets you an enchantment with whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may reveal the top card of your library. If you do, you may cast that card without paying its mana cost if the two spells have the same mana value, which I think is neat. I don't think this is good. I think this relies a lot on maybe getting kind of lucky and a coincidence, and because like you're not setting up top to try and make something work with this. You're just kind of playing this if it's fun. But I don't know. Anybody disagree on this one or no?
No, I think it's bad.
Yeah.
I just think you should. I would want to try it in a deck that's already playing Counterbalance.
Well, the problem with the comparison between this and Counterbalance is that, like, with Counterbalance, your opponent is committing to playing a card and using their mana, and they want to do that. That's why they've made that decision. And so then Counterbalance on that is like, no, you can't do that thing that you've committed resources and time to. Whereas this one is like, you still get to do that, but maybe I can join
Maybe
in.
I get to do something
and
too.
like what you hit is not always necessarily going to be, relevant, I guess.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Next up from the Commander set is Pyrogoyf. 3 and a red for a Lurgoyf that has Tarmogoyf stats. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of card types in all graveyards, and its toughness is +1 that. So 4 mana Tarmogoyf that says whenever Pyrogoyf or another Lurgoyf creature enters the battlefield under your control, that creature deals damage equal to its power to any target. So what if your Tarmogoyf was a Flame Tongue Kavu? Or what if your Tarmogoyf also just went to the dome for like 4 or 5 just in case?
What if Tarmogoyf and Flametongue Kavu had a secret love child?
What if you played Jund and you had
all Goyfs?
You just have incidental Goyfs.
Yeah. Incidental. You could have 16 Goyfs in 60 card constructed now.
Well,
The 1 mana Goyf, the 2 mana Goyf, the 3 mana Goyf, the 4 mana Goyf. 16 Goyf.
so many Goyfs. There's actually other Lurgoyfs too that aren't really playable, but like, for that purpose, I want to point them out. They exist.
You might have a random Changeling card too. Who knows?
Oh my
Sure. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I like this card quite a bit. I mean, I'm a Flame Tongue Kavu enjoyer.
I miss my FTK.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's good again.
Flametongue Kavu is actually still playable.
Now,
for sure.
does this say... Oh, it says any target.
Yeah, any target.
FTK, remember
their
the
boo.
downside where you played on an empty board and you had to like shoot your own FTK because they'd like bounce their creature in response or
Go
something?
face.
No, I would never make that play.
All right, pardon me.
I'd be very familiar that they had the repulse in hand.
Yeah.
Somebody didn't get into Invasion Block Constructed at the beginning of the pandemic.
Wild.
Yeah, this card's great. I'm going to play it in... I mean, you should probably play this in like Gruul Monsters, Blue Moon, Medium Red, Jund.
Yep.
Like, yeah, this card's
Mardu?
cracked. Yeah, you can play it in like a Mardu mid-range kind of deck.
Yep.
Like, yeah,
very
it's
spicy.
Tarmogoyf that Flame Tongue Kavus.
Oh,
Yeah.
I got great news for you, Wheeler.
Huh?
You don't have to read all of the double-sided Planeswalker cards
Oh,
because
thank
Nellie's
God.
got
Nellie's going to read a Planeswalker.
Off by one.
All right,
Hooray.
enjoy, Nellie.
It's little baby Ral Monsoon Mage, 1 and a red for a legendary 1/3 human wizard. With instant and sorcery spells you cast, cost 1 less to cast. It's Brawl, or Goblin Archmancer, or that other one that does that same thing.
Thunderclap Drake?
Yeah! Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell during your turn, flip a coin. I'm in love with this card already. If you lose the flip, Ral deals 1 damage to you. Ouch! If you win the flip, you may exile Ral. Serves you right. If you do, return him to the battlefield transformed under his owner's control. Oh, he comes back even if you exile him. Okay. But now he's Ral Leyline Prodigy, a legendary planeswalker with 2 loyalty and the following 4 abilities. Ral Leyline Prodigy enters the battlefield with an additional loyalty counter on him for each instant and sorcery spell you've cast this turn. So like Loyalty Storm, kinda? +1 until your next turn, instant sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. -2, Ral deals 2 damage divided as you choose among 1 or 2 targets. Draw a card if you control a blue permanent other than Ral. Oh, yeah, that's a nice one. That's a nice one right there. -8, exile the top 8 cards of your library. You may cast instant or sorcery spells from among them this turn without paying their mana costs. Okay, so there's a lot going on here, but basically, if you are playing Goblin Electromancer, God, shit me your deck list. I missed that card. I don't have anywhere to play him. I think this card is a little too weak on rate. Like the cost of inclusion, the floor is a little too low to be seriously considered for a lot of decks. But I don't know, any blue-red Storm enjoyers out there?
Big gay electric Prince Moonstorm.
Yeah.
I don't love the coin flip. I think that's weird.
Sure.
A lot of the other ones that flip, you have a very obvious and predictable condition to make it work the way you want.
Just got to cast 2 spells.
This has that too.
Yeah, just keep casting spells.
If you lose the flip, it deals 1 damage to you. If you win the flip, you may exile and return it. What do you mean just keep casting spells?
Well, it's 50% chance to flip.
Yeah.
Sure, but like,
What's the problem?
what if you lose the coin flip?
You take 1 damage.
Yeah.
And then you
Then you still have your Ral.
okay.
Sorry, hold on. Wait, what? Like, so
Let's say
so Magic cards have downsides occasionally.
sure.
They don't all hasn't been recently.
Sure.
Here's
no,
the thing. You
that's
pay
fair.
1 life and sacrifice your Flooded Strand, but then you can go get your Savannah.
I don't know. I think that's a legitimate criticism of this card.
Yeah,
right?
no, it is.
You know, you don't have infinite mana all the time, and sometimes you need every single point to matter. And you're like, okay, cool. If this flips, I can -2 it, and I got the win.
Right.
And then you miss the coin flip, and you're like, oh, cool. I just did a damage to myself.
So I don't think you include this card in your deck for any reason other than that first line of text.
Sure.
And the fact that even if you lose the flip, that line of text is still active, that's great. I agree, like Storm decks and combo decks that use the Electromancers and Brawls and whatnot, your life total is a resource. And like, if you're as unlucky as I am, yeah, you might end up taking like 4 damage or 5 damage or whatever, because it's hard being me. But like, I genuinely don't think you need to worry about any of the other abilities on this card.
Sure.
Like, it is just another Goblin Electromancer that has the potential to turn into another Goblin Electromancer that can like potentially pop off, right? Like,
Sure.
but you're playing it because it's an Electromancer.
Right. That's fair.
The one other kind of cool thing is that even if you win the flip, I don't believe you have to flip him. You can keep it as
You may. Yeah.
The
creature.
the little guy.
Yeah.
And so if you are an incredibly lucky Magic player like Nelson and Serge, you could flip, get heads, and be like, I'm good. And just rack up the storm so that when it finally transforms, it'll have a higher
Have
level.
the Maya State already.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you get some
Yeah.
free spells.
Yeah.
That's very
And
funny.
you profit.
Yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we have the Reckless Pyro Surfer, which I think wins the coolest name in the set award.
It's very good.
That does. Yeah, probably.
So the Reckless Pyro Surfer is a 2-mana 2/2 human scout for 1 and a red with haste and landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, Reckless Pyro Surfer gains Battle Cry until end of turn. Battle Cry's ability that says whenever this creature attacks, each other attacking creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn, and each instance of Battle Cry triggers separately. So
Gross.
I believe this was in the previous episode. Wheeler was talking about this like landfall aggro deck.
Oh, yeah.
You get the step links in, you get the plated geopedes,
Oh, yeah.
you get your bristly bills or whatever.
Mhm. Yep. The bristled billium.
But this is also a human.
I think this is also just a good red deck wins card.
Yeah.
And like a humans card.
Yeah.
I just think like Marty humans, Boros tokens.
Tokens, hell yeah.
We, as a species,
You mean Highlander players or
Yes.
the three of us in this room?
Magic players.
All right, yeah.
we have been conditioned to look at a 2 mana, 2 power, 2 toughness haste creature
We're like, but
and go
where
like,
does it fit?
what else can it do?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
come on. Like,
No, that's fair.
2/2 haste is like really good.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah. Like Rip Clan Crasher has won many a Magic tournament. That's just 2 mana, 2/2 haste.
No, you're right. I think we are overthinking this. You're like, yeah, its baseline is already, its floor is incredible and its ceiling just gets hilarious.
Yeah, it does the job.
Yeah, play it in red decks with creatures. I mean, if it just said 2 mana like 3/2 haste, your other creatures get +1/+0, which I think is a worse card than this one. We'd be pretty stoked, right? Because it's like gains battle. Oh, right, it doesn't pump itself. Sorry,
it doesn't bump
it's never a
itself.
3/2.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But still, if it
No, I
was
get
just
you.
like 2/2 haste, your other creatures get
Yeah.
+1/+0.
Kraken Fetch Land is very
That'd
funny.
be exciting.
And
that
fetch land's busted.
yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic.
All right, Wheeler.
Siege Smash. 1 and a red for an instant with split second.
It's been a while.
Yeah. Choose one. Destroy target artifact or target creature gets +3/+2 and gains trample until end of turn. For those not familiar with split second, as long as the spell is on the stack, players can't cast spells or activate abilities that aren't mana abilities. Triggered abilities and whatnot can still happen, but they can't count. For instance, with this one, they cannot counter Siege Smash. They cannot respond by bolting your creature so that it doesn't get the bonus. I'm a fan of a pump spell. I'm a fan of a flexible spell as well. Being able to destroy a GT or a Paradox Engine or a Palantir or a KCI or whatever with split second is pretty big. KCI is a bad example. That's a mana ability. That card is an abomination.
Right.
But, for everything else, like blow up your GT, you don't get to use the counters.
You'd still be stoked to blow up a KCI because they're just not going to cast anything else. Like they're just going to sack all their stuff first.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
You might not be dead yet.
Urza's Saga. They can't make the construct. Oh, it's artifact without an enchantment.
Yeah.
Thank you. Pardon me.
And yeah, just split second pump spells is
When was the last time
genuinely,
anybody ever read Urza's Saga? Honest question.
unfortunately, earlier today. Yeah, instant speed pump spell, you can't respond plus trample is wild.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty good. I'm excited to play this in like the Gruul Blitz pump spell style deck. Infect. I'm really excited to play this card in. Yeah. It's a pretty good cheap like utility card to have around.
How do you think this compares to the modal card artifact or 3 damage?
A braid?
A braid. Because I think
yeah.
that's an interesting comparison.
I think they're completely different.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I just need a number 3 and destroy an artifact, and that's where the problem
Right,
comes from.
yeah.
And the mana cost and the color.
It's nice, I guess, to draw a comparison, right? Like you wouldn't play 2 mana, deal 3 to a creature.
Right.
You probably wouldn't play Shatter, but you'd play them both. And you probably wouldn't play 2 mana split second blow up an artifact. You probably wouldn't play 2 mana. Well, actually, I might play 2 mana split second +3/+2 and trample.
Yeah.
But the fact that you have that option in a deck that is in a style of deck that is typically just looking to kill you, but it's nice to be like, actually, you know what? That construct can go to hell. Like,
Right.
that's pretty nice. Or blowing up Thopter Foundry.
Yeah,
Like, that's a huge one.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty slick.
Hell yeah. And then finally, Nelly, take us home. Last card of the day.
It's Sundering Eruption. Not maybe that big of a deal. Why are we talking about this 2 and a red sorcery that says destroy target land? Its controller may search their library for a basic, put it on the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. Creatures without flying can't block this turn. Actually, hold on. I was trying to set this up, but then they're like, Stone Rain plus Falter. Wait, Nelly has never seen both these cards in the same card for only 3 mana. That's actually pretty sweet. They let you have this for 4, and people forget about it. It's like a draft common that no one picks. Anyways, I was building up to say, because on the backside, it's a land! They called it a... Sorry. They called it a mine. It's not, actually. It's a fissure, but they could probably build a mine out of it. Yeah, it taps for a red. As it enters the battlefield, you can pay 3 life. If you don't, it's tapped, like all these other ones. And, yeah, now you've got a Stone Rain that gets them a basic tapped and keeps creatures from blocking this turn, or a land in your deck. You're going to play it.
Busted.
I like it. I like this card a lot.
All right, explain to me.
Okay. So, lands cast spells.
Okay, good. Good.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. I won't be a dick. Well, I'll be less of one. So, aggressive red decks really don't care about their own life total that much, right? You are the beatdown. You are the aggressor. And so being able to play a card that is either a land or a falter, you can't block. Your flash threats can't block unless they have flying. That also is just like, hey, to hell with your Caracas or your Tolarian Academy or your Urza Saga in particular. This card is so funny against Urza Saga because you're like, blow up your Saga. Doesn't matter if you make the construct. It's not going to block anyways.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just like the red decks play Spikefield Hazard, which is a double-face mono card from Zendikar Rising, comes into play tapped, and then costs 1 to ping something for 1 and would exile it.
Just a creature, right?
Just any target.
Oh, same target.
But like that comes into play tapped.
Yeah.
And that's not the most exciting spell. This comes into play untapped and says they can't block. They can't block.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Do you like this in RDW, or are you going up even higher into like
I'm playing this in
red?
I'm playing this in medium red. I'm playing this in RDW.
Interesting.
You could maybe play this in Gruul. I don't know. I'm not a Gruul. I'm too
enthusiast.
Yeah, I'm too in my early 30s to play Gruul monsters.
Play it.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Goblins.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a land. It's so free.
Sick.
Oh my god. Yeah, play this in like Boros Humans or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh Jesus.
Get used to it.
Yeah.
All right, friends, that is going to do it for part 2 of our set review. A reminder, if there's any cards that you think we missed, you want to talk about the various discussions we had, hit us up in the comments down below. We do actually quite enjoy going through all of those. A reminder that everything we do is brought to you by you with your support over the Patreon over at patreon.com/LonelyReadyRun. I've been Serge, joined by a Nelly,
I was here.
a Wheeler,
It's just a land.
and a shout out to Paul on Tech.
Hello.
Thank you so much for watching. We will see you in part 3. Until next time, bye-bye.